Hi, today is Monday, December 1st, 2025. I, my uncle, the oldest brother to my father, was conscripted to the Japanese army during the Japanese occupation of Korea, and he sent to China, then Taiwan, and at the 1 month before the liberation, before the surrender of the Japanese emperor to the U.S. Military, his boat sank off the coast of Taiwan, and he drowned. Right, so it's a sad story. He did not volunteer. He had to join the Japanese army because no choice, right? Each village has to provide soldiers, and he was selected, sadly, and he died during the invasion, Japanese marauding army. So let's learn more about the POWs of Japanese soldiers. This article is from Heartland Headlines. Japanese POWs broke down after tasting hamburgers and Coca-Cola in U.S. camps. December 3rd, 1944, Camp McCoy, Wisconsin. The train doors groaned open and cold air rushed in like a blade. Japanese prisoners stepped down onto frozen ground, blinking against the pale winter light. Their uniforms hung in tatters. Their faces were hollow, eyes sunken, lips cracked from weeks of hunger and transit. They had been told since their first day in uniform that capture meant torture, starvation, humiliation. They expected violence. Instead, they smelled something they couldn't name, something rich, warm, impossibly foreign. Smoke curled from kitchen chimneys. The scent of meat and frying oil drifted across the snow. One soldier whispered to another, "This must be the trap." The prisoners stood in formation, trembling, not from cold alone, from fear, from confusion. They had been taught that Americans were savages, that the enemy would strip them of dignity, starve them, mock them until death felt like mercy. But as they looked around Camp McCoy at the orderly barracks, the Red Cross officials with clipboards and guards who shouted commands but did not strike, a question began to grow in their chests, quiet and unbearable. What if everything they had been told was a lie? And in that moment, standing on foreign soil, with the smell of food in the air and no blows falling, they began to realize something far more terrifying than cruelty. Their enemy lived in a different world entirely. The war in the Pacific had been brutally beyond measure by late 1944. Japan's supply lines were collapsing. Soldiers on distant islands survived on handfuls of rice and sometimes tree bark, sometimes nothing at all. Malnutrition was not an exception. It was the standard. Men fought with, so basically, I didn't know that Japanese POWs were sent to the U.S. mainland. That's interesting, right? They usually fought in the Asia-Pacific arena, but they were transported to mainland USA as POWs. Men fought with bellies swollen from starvation, teeth loose in their gums, skin stretched over bone, In contrast, the United States was producing food, fuel, and equipment on a scale Japan could not comprehend. In 1944 alone, America manufactured over 96,000 aircraft. Japan produced fewer than 30,000. American factories turned out Liberty ships faster than Germany could sink them. The arsenal of democracy wasn't propaganda. It was steel, oil, and grain measured in millions of tons. But none of that mattered to the man stepping off the train at Camp McCoy. They knew only what they had lived: hunger, bombing, retreat, and finally the shame of surrender. Sergeant Hideo Tanaka, thin, silent, 23 years old, had been captured on Saipan after hiding in a cave for 2 weeks. He had eaten nothing but roots and rainwater. When American soldiers found him, he expected execution. Sergeant Hideo Tanaka, he had eaten nothing but roots and rainwater. When American soldiers found him, he expected execution. Instead, they bandaged his wounds and put him on a ship. The voyage across the Pacific had been long, cramped, and terrifying. Tanaka kept waiting for the punishment to begin. It never did. Now, standing in Wisconsin snow, he watched as American medics moved down the line, checking pulses, measuring fevers, inspecting infected wounds. One medic knelt beside an older prisoner whose arm was bandaged with a filthy cloth. The medic peeled it away carefully, cleaned the wound, applied sulfur powder, and wrapped it again with a fresh gauze. The prisoner sat frozen. He did not understand English, but he understood care. Tanaka's throat tightened. He thought of his younger brother still somewhere in the Philippines. Read the full article below in the comments. Well, it's a long story, right? Gauze. Let's find out the exact pronunciation of this word. Gauze. Right? Gauze.
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 Gauze. Gauze. Gauze. So let's, gauze, right? Gauze. So let's go back and see the comments, right? No comments. Maybe that's because I saved it. I shared it from the article. So we go to this author. Wow, he's a history buff, right? He is interested in the American history, right? Or this one. So I go back to the comments so that I could load everything. Well, nothing happened. But basically, they were taken to Wisconsin, right? And they were applied, the gauze was applied and everything. Thanks for listening and have a great day. Bye-bye.